So for the cost-benefit analysis, I use a net present value method. And this is the equation net present value where B is the benefit, so minus the cost. So the benefits is for my, I use two equations for this. I'll come to this. So if I was using the conservation fee only, so the benefit would be I have X number of visitors coming in a year multiplied by the average willingness to pay, which I got for the conservation fee. That was about $35. So the cost is, and so the T is time. So this is for each year. So I was running a simulation where, so for each year I would be finding the cost and the benefit as well. Now the cost included the initial, for year 0 is the amount of $173,000 for the implementation of the management scenario, but I used the capital as well as the recurrent expenditures, so for each year how much they were spending for implementing that management scenario. And the discount rate, I used a 12% discount rate, and I checked on other similar studies, they use around 10 to 12%, and it's recommended for, because people generally don't value, the benefits in the future is not valued as high for environmental goods. That's the reason why a high discount rate is used. And I used a time period for 100 years, so I ran the simulation for 100 years. This is for other studies, because we are looking at improving the health of coral reefs, and it takes over 25 to 50 years to see, because corals grow at quite a slow rate, and other studies recommend using higher, and whether higher time frames. So I had the equation, so I used two separate equations for benefits from the user fee as well as benefits from the conservation fee. And these are some of the scenarios I had run. So I did some sensitivity analysis by changing the number of visitors. How does that affect my net present value? By changing the discount rates, so various discount rates. And so first my scenario, I had the number of visitors constant to the 2006 visitors, the number of visitors, and with 8% discount rate. So I got a positive benefit, but with the user fee it was negative. So I found number 3 here is the one which I used for my actual analysis of the cost benefit analysis, although I ran the other scenarios to see how it varied. And you can see from almost all the scenarios except this one, the user fee net present value comes negative. So that means it's not feasible to have only a user fee. You will not get any positive benefits. But for all the scenarios with the conservation fee, you can actually get benefits. So I was able to show that you can get benefits from actually investing in proper management of the MPA. But to get the benefits, the best way is to have a conservation fee for all visitors, whether they dived or whether they visited the Galiha or not. If you are coming to Baa Atoll, you have to pay this conservation fee. Now I did remind them in the contingent valuation survey, even if there are other atolls where there are other resorts in Maldives available where you could go and you don't have to pay this fee. So they were reminded of this option as well. So as I said, the conservation fee is more viable than a user fee, and the potential revenues generated would be sufficient for long-term management of the Galiha. And one thing I wanted to, and I had highlighted in my work, is the level at which to set the conservation fee should be very carefully considered. The average was $35, but if I had, if there is too high conservation fees were set, many people will not be willing to pay, so you would have a low income generated. And at the same time, if the fee was too low, you might not get enough funds generated for management. And I did some analysis. So this graph shows this is the conservation fee. So you could set 20, 40, 60, up to 160. And this axis shows number of people who are willing to pay that fee. So 0, there is obviously many people who are not willing. The number of people who would be high. So if you set for $20, this is around not just below 15,000 people would be willing to pay that amount. And as if you increase till the number of people willing to pay, the amount decreases. So that's one of the things I was talking about. If you set too high values, you will not have. And this line, this axis shows the net benefit for that. So if you had $20 set as the fee, this is the net benefit, net you will get. It's so positive $100. The scale is into 1,000, so 100,000. So this line 0 is, so any figure above this will be you are getting a positive benefit. So any below, that means you are getting a negative, so the cost is higher. So this I have marked the two dashed lines about 108. So if you go over 108, you are not getting benefits. Your cost is more than the benefit you are getting. And similarly, if you go below $10, you are not generating enough revenues to actually fund the implementation. And the peak is here at about 50. But still, in my discussions, I talk about it is very wise to, just because it shows a peak there, this should be read with caution. You are dealing with people who, and this is this contingent valuation is a hypothetical scenario. So people who have said their willingness to pay may, if there was an actual fee, they might not be as willing as the amount they have stated in this, because they know they don't have to actually pay. They might have given a higher willingness to pay. So maybe cautious to have a lower fee but still gets the positive net benefit. So that's about, and some of the future work I had recommended is, one is just what I was saying about the hypothetical versus actual willingness to pay. So if there was some experimental kind of research where people, an actual willingness to pay can be generated, now that can be compared with this hypothetical willingness to pay. And next I noted was that this research is looking at how visitors coming from outside are valuing our resources. So we need to look at how, maybe do a study for local communities, but at that time, and I noted that people were not ready to actually being asked how much are you willing to pay. So some form of contingent ranking where they are given different amenities and asking to rank might be better for local communities. And this actually was, after I completed this work, my later work for my PhD was focused more on looking at how local communities value their reef resources, and I had presented it earlier in one of the seminars. So after this study, my work has been more focused on the human side of valuation, not the economic and more qualitative work. And another thing I noted was that that there are very few studies on the successful implementation of fees. When it comes to actual fee mechanisms, there are governance issues, how to collect revenues, and even working in the government, this has been quite a feat, actually trying to have an independent conservation fund. So maybe that can be something that can explode on successful implementation of such a collection system. So that's about it. And any questions?